Have you ever wondered why you're here? Maybe you've achieved success, yet still feel empty. Or maybe you're drifting through life asking, is this all there is? In today's teaching, we're going to uncover the root of that emptiness, the absence of purpose, and how you can discover the exact reason God placed you on this earth. This isn't about religion. It's about significance. We're going to solve the mystery of your existence. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters around the world, I want to welcome you today to a life-transforming moment. Today's message is not just a sermon, it is a divine confrontation. We are dealing with one of the greatest crises of humanity. And it's not political instability, it's not an economic recession, it is the crisis of purpose. Now listen to me very carefully today, because I'm about to give you a truth that will shift your entire perspective on life if you receive it. And I don't mean casually hearing it. I mean letting it penetrate your spirit like a seed that finally finds good soil. Here it is, God never creates anything without a purpose. That may sound simple at first, but don't miss the weight of what I just said. God is a God of intention. He does not operate randomly. He's not an accidental creator. There are no experiments in His kingdom. No trials, no prototypes. Everything He makes with precision, with vision, and with purpose. That includes you. You are not a mistake. You are not a product of chance. You are not the result of a romantic night or a failed contraception. You are not the consequence of a family decision. You are the manifestation of a divine decision that was made long before your parents even knew each other. The reason this is so important is because we live in a generation where people are questioning their worth, questioning their identity, questioning whether they matter. Depression is increasing. Anxiety is at an all-time high. Suicide is taking people out before they even start life. Why? Because when you don't know why something exists, abuse is inevitable. If I don't know what a thing is for, I will misuse it. The same is true for your life. And so many people are misusing their life, wasting time, wasting potential, chasing things that were never designed to fulfill them, simply because they never discovered their original purpose. Let me give you an example. If I handed you a strange tool and didn't tell you what it was created for, you might use it for something close, but not right. You might use it as a hammer. You might use it as a doorstop. But if that thing was designed to be a medical instrument, then using it as a hammer is a form of abuse, misuse. And that's what's happening with people. You were born for something specific. You were designed for something unique. And until you discover that, you're just experimenting with your own existence. Now, look at creation. God created the sun to shine, the moon to reflect, the oceans to roar, the eagle to soar, the lion to dominate the wild, the ant to organize, the bee to pollinate, the flowers blooming, the tree to bear fruit. And none of them have ever held a board meeting to figure out their assignment. Why? Because instinctively they are doing what they were created to do. Purpose is built into their design. But you and I, we are the only ones in creation who question our existence. Why? Because God gave us something none of them have, the power of will. He gave us choice. And with choice comes the responsibility to discover what He had in mind when He made us. You see, your existence is not about survival. It's about an assignment. You didn't just arrive on earth, you were sent. And until you reconnect with the one who sent you, you'll keep looking for meaning in places that can't give it to you. That's why some people have money but still feel empty. That's why others are famous but deeply depressed. Because success without purpose is the greatest form of failure. Let me say that again so it sinks in. Success without purpose is failure. What does it matter if the whole world knows your name, but heaven never gets glory from your life? Hear me. Everything God made, He made with a purpose. But made everything with its purpose built inside of it. Which means your purpose is not something you get from people. It's not something that comes from a degree or a title or a career. Your purpose is already inside of you, placed there by your Creator. You were born with it. Just like a seed contains a tree, you contain your destiny. It's already there, locked within you, hidden beneath the layers of insecurity, fear, religion, tradition, and distraction. And your job is to go back to the manufacturer and ask, why did you create me? Because the only one who can reveal the purpose of a product is the one who designed it. You don't ask the chair why it exists. You ask the carpenter. You don't ask the computer why it was made. You ask the engineer. And you don't ask the culture, the media, or even your own feelings why you were born. You ask God. Because purpose is not discovered in the mirror. It's discovered in the mind of the Maker. And let me warn you, if you don't discover your purpose, the world will give you one. If you don't define your life by your Creator's intention, you'll define it by other people's expectations. And that's how you end up living someone else's dream and calling it your own. You see, there's a difference between making a living and making a difference. And the only way to make a real difference, an eternal difference, is to live according to the purpose for which you were created. That's why I say God never creates anything without a purpose. And the fact that you're alive today, breathing, listening to my voice, is the evidence that your purpose is still active. Your assignment is still relevant. Heaven has not canceled your file. You still have something to do. And until that thing is done. Now, I want you to pay close attention to what I'm about to tell you, because if you grab this truth, not just in your head, but in your spirit, it will completely revolutionize the way you see yourself, your past, and your future. Here's the revelation. You were not born to find your purpose. You were born with it. And even deeper than that, your purpose actually came before your birth. In other words, you were created because of your purpose, not the other way around. You didn't show up on earth and then God decided what to do with you. You didn't arrive and then heaven started scrambling, trying to come up with a plan. No, that's not how God works. God is not reactive. He's preemptive. He finishes things before he begins them. That's why Isaiah 46:10 says, I make known the end from the beginning. God doesn't begin with creation. He begins with completion. He sees the end, finishes it, then backs up and starts with the beginning. That means your life started as a finished idea in the mind of God. Before you were formed in your mother's womb, he knew you. That's not poetry. That's reality. Let me take you to Jeremiah 1:5, one of the most powerful statements in all of Scripture. God is speaking to Jeremiah and he says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. Now, slow down and don't just read that, hear it. Before you were even a biological cell, before your mother missed her cycle, before your father even saw your mother, God says, I knew you. That word knew in Hebrew is yada. It means intimate knowledge, deep personal intentional knowledge, not just awareness, not just concepts, actual relationship. God is saying, I had a relationship with you before your body was even formed. That means your body is not the beginning of your life. It's the housing for your assignment. Your body is simply the vehicle for your purpose. That's why purpose is not found in how you look, where you're from, or what people say about you, because your spirit came before your skin. Your assignment was already recorded in heaven before your birth certificate ever existed on earth. And that, my friend, changes everything. You are not here randomly. You didn't come from your parents. You came through your parents. They were the delivery system. God is the source. And the only reason you made it into this world is because there was a purpose that demanded your arrival. This is why abortion is not just a political issue. It's a purpose issue. Because when you destroy a life, you don't just end a body, you interrupt an assignment. Every person, no matter the circumstances of their conception, was born because of divine intention. Now hear this, you didn't show up on earth to look for purpose. You came here with it installed. It's already in your spirit. It's already pre-approved. You were predestined. That's what Romans 8:29 means when it says, for those God foreknew, he also predestined. You were known before. And then you were destined before. That word destiny is not something you walk into by chance. It's something you walk in alignment with. And the only way to find alignment is to go back to the one who assigned you. Let me say this clearly. Your purpose didn't start when you chose your career. It didn't start when you graduated. It didn't start when you became a parent. Nope. Those are chapters in your story. But the story was written before the first page ever turned. God already had the plot outlined. He already saw the challenges, the detours, the setbacks, and he still called you. He still sent you. That means nothing you've been through disqualifies you from the reason you were born. Your mistakes don't cancel your mission. Your failures don't forfeit your assignment, because your purpose is older than your problems. And when you discover that, you'll stop letting your past dictate your identity. See, many people let their history block their destiny. But your history started after your purpose. You were already approved before you even breathed your first breath. That's why the devil fights your identity. Because if you ever truly discover that your purpose preceded your birth, you'll stop living for opinions and start living for assignments. You'll stop wasting time trying to impress people and start using your time to impact lives. The reason so many people feel lost is because they think life is about choosing what to do. But real success doesn't come from choosing. It comes from discovering. And you don't discover purpose by chasing trends. You discover it by seeking truth. Because purpose is not invented. It's revealed. It's already there. It's waiting to be uncovered. And the more you press into God, the more he begins to pull back the curtain and show you why you exist. And when you catch a glimpse of that, even if it's just a glimpse, you'll never settle for an average life again. You'll stop comparing yourself. You'll stop competing with others. Because you'll finally realize they weren't assigned to your race. You've got your own lane, your own mission, your own reason for existing. And nobody else can fulfill it but you. Let me tell you something that will shake every false foundation you've ever built your life on. It is possible to be busy and still be empty. It is possible to be successful by the world's standards and still be a failure in the eyes of your Creator. Why? Because success without purpose is counterfeit. It's empty. It's hollow. The greatest tragedy in life is not death. No, the greatest tragedy is to be alive and not know why. It's to wake up every morning, breathing, walking, working, spending, and yet never understand the reason for your existence. That, my friend, is the slow death of significance. And sadly, that's where most people are living. They're moving, but they have no direction. They're active, but not effective. They're climbing, but up the wrong ladder. And when they finally reach the top, they realize it was leaning against the wrong wall. Because without purpose, progress is just motion without meaning. Listen to me. Fulfillment is not found in activity. It's found in don't feel satisfied just because you're doing something. You feel satisfied when you're doing what you were born to do. When you're functioning in alignment with your original design, you don't need applause. You don't need permission. You don't need the approval of people. Why? Because you've tapped into the frequency of heaven, and purpose always comes with peace. That's why some of the most miserable people in the world are not the ones who are struggling. No, some of the most miserable people are the ones who made it. They got the house, they've got the car, they've got the time, they've got the following. And yet deep down they feel nothing. They're restless, empty, frustrated. Why? Because they're full of success but starving for significance. You were not created to chase money. You were not born to pursue fame. You were not designed just to survive, clock in and clock out, and die with a good pension. That is not living. That's existing. Real living begins when you discover your purpose. Because when you know your purpose, you don't just survive the day. You attack the day with intention. You stop wandering and start walking in a direction. Purpose brings clarity. Purpose brings focus. Purpose cuts away the distractions, the noise, the comparisons, the confusion, and it gives your life a target. And let me tell you something. Nothing is more powerful than a person who has found their target. You see, when you don't know your purpose, you become a slave to options. You start saying yes to everything because you don't know what you're supposed to say no to. You waste energy, you waste years chasing things that don't even belong to your destiny. But when you find your purpose, yes, you find your yes, gives you the authority to say no to distraction, to drama, to dead-end relationships, to meaningless pursuits. Purpose gives you a filter, a standard, a blueprint. You begin to measure opportunities not by how popular they are, but by whether they align with your assignment. You stop asking, is this a good idea? And you start asking, is this a God idea? Because let me tell you, good can be the enemy of great. And many people settle for what is acceptable when they are called to walk in what is exceptional. But you'll never know the difference until you align with your original reason for existence. That's what direction is. Direction is not just having a goal. It's having God's goal for your life. It's having a sense in your spirit that you are in the right place, doing the right thing for the right reason. That's what makes you unstoppable. That's what makes you resilient. That's what allows you to walk through storms and still keep moving. Because when you know your purpose, even pain becomes part of the process. Setbacks become setups. Delay becomes development. Because purpose puts everything into perspective. You begin to see that your struggles weren't random. They were training. Your wounds weren't just for suffering. They were making you sensitive to someone else's pain. The very thing that broke you was preparing you to build something greater. That's why purpose isn't just about what you do. It's about how you see. When you know your purpose, your vision changes. You start seeing the hand of God in everything. You begin to recognize divine patterns. What once looked like rejection now looks like protection. What once felt like loss now feels like redirection. Because when you are rooted in purpose, you no longer live by what you see. You live by what you know. And what you know is that your life matters. You're not here by accident. You're not here wasting space. You're not wandering through time hoping things work out. You are here by divine design. You are here to complete an assignment. And when you start moving in that direction, fulfillment starts to follow you. Peace starts to chase you down. Joy starts rising from within. Because now you're no longer out of place. You're no longer just existing. You're functioning according to the blueprint of your Creator. And that, my friend, is where true direction comes from. That's where fulfillment is found. Now let me speak something into your spirit that will awaken the sleeping giant inside of you. You were not born to just take up space. You were not born to blend in, to live, die, and be forgotten. You were not born to be ordinary. You were born to solve a problem. Let me say it again so it shakes your mind loose from every lie you've ever believed. You were born because there was a problem on earth that required your existence. That means you are not optional. You are essential. You are not random. You are strategic. You were sent by heaven to be a solution to something broken on this planet. Now here's where we miss it. Most people spend their lives trying to be successful instead of trying to be useful. They chase positions instead of assignments. They want platforms, but they don't understand the purpose. And so they measure their lives by likes and followers instead of by fruit and impact. But the true purpose isn't about being noticed. It's about being necessary. You don't need the whole world to applaud you. You just need to solve the problem you were sent to solve. Because that problem is your assignment. That problem is your lane. That problem is what distinguishes you from everybody else. And until you identify that, you will always feel misplaced, misunderstood, and misused. Let me break this down for you. When God created the earth, He didn't just create people randomly and then start looking for jobs for them to do. He looked at the needs in the earth, the voids, the issues, the gaps. And for every need, He created a seed. That seed is called you. You are the answer to something. You carry a solution inside of you. And every talent you have, every gift, every skill, every passion, every pain you've endured, even the burden you carry that nobody understands, all of that is tied to the problem you were designed to solve. Purpose is always problem specific. If there were no problems, there would be no need for your existence. That's why you didn't show up in the 1700s. That's why you weren't born during the days of Moses or Paul. Because the problem you were created to solve exists right now. Your generation is the context for your calling. You were born at this time because this time needs what you carry. Look around. The world is full of chaos, confusion, pain, injustice, poverty, broken families, directionless youth, corrupt systems, lost souls. These are not just random crises. These are signals, spiritual cries for solutions. And the reason you feel agitated, the reason certain things bother you more than others, is because your spirit is drawn to the very problem you were born to fix. Have you ever wondered why some issues disturb you more deeply than they do others? Why do certain situations break your heart while others overlook them? That's not weakness. That's a divine indicator. That burden you feel, that's God's way of pointing you toward your assignment. Because behind every burden is a blueprint. And behind every problem is a person God has anointed to solve it. Just like Moses was burdened by the suffering of his people, and that burden led him into purpose. Just like Nehemiah wept over the broken walls of Jerusalem, and that weeping became the foundation of his assignment. The thing that keeps you up at night, the thing you can't stop thinking about, the issue you wish someone would fix, maybe that someone is you. You don't need to look for purpose in a personality test. You don't need to chase after it in a career fair. Look at your pain. Look at your passion. Look at your frustration. What problem on earth makes you feel uncomfortable, like you can't sit still? That's a sign. Now watch this. When God gives you purpose, He also gives you provision. Heaven always finances its own ideas. If you're operating in your true assignment, you won't have to beg for support. You won't have to force doors to open. Doors will start responding to the problem you were born to solve. Because resources follow relevance. If you're relevant to a divine problem, you'll always have access to divine supply. And this is why comparison is a trap. Because your purpose is not someone else's purpose. The problem they were born to solve is different from yours. Don't envy someone else's spotlight if you weren't called to their stage. You've got your own audience. You've got your own need to meet. You've got your own generation to impact. When you understand that you were born to be the answer to something, you stop asking, who's going to help me? And you start asking, who am I sent to help? You stop trying to fit in and you stop standing up. You stop seeking and you stop validation and you start bringing value. You become a solution carrier, a kingdom agent, a walking assignment. That's why you can't afford to live distracted. You can't afford to waste years chasing trends and mimicking others. Because every moment you delay, someone else's problem remains unsolved. And purpose doesn't just impact you, it impacts others through you. You're not just carrying a dream, you're carrying someone's breakthrough. You're not just holding a gift, you're holding the key to someone else's prison, to living casually. Now that you've heard this word, you can never go back because you now know what most people live their whole lives never discovering, that God never creates anything without a purpose, and that includes you. You weren't a product of chance. You weren't born to just pay bills and die. You are not the result of human planning. You are the expression of divine intention. Your purpose precedes your birth. That means before your mother knew you, before your father named you, before the world ever saw your face, heaven already wrote your assignment. You are not an afterthought. You were foreknown, foreseen, and foreordained. You carry something eternal within you that time cannot erase. And if that weren't enough, your purpose is not just personal, it's powerful. It's not just about your joy, it's about your journey. Because purpose is the key to fulfillment and direction. When you know why you were born, you don't drift, you drive. You don't beg for meaning, you breathe it. Your life becomes focused, fruitful, and free from the tyranny of comparison and confusion. But even more, and I want you to hear this with every ounce of faith in your spirit, you were born to solve a problem on this earth. You are not a consumer of space. You are a distributor of answers. You are heaven's strategy for a specific need in this generation. And when you activate your purpose, the world changes. Someone gets healed. Someone finds freedom. Someone discovers hope. Because you showed up. So the question is no longer, what do I want to do with my life? The real question is, what was I born to do? And the only way to answer that is to go back to the one who sent you. Because purpose is not a product of preference. It's a product of where you find your purpose in God. Because it was God who put it in you. Don't waste another year, another week, another day living outside of your assignment. Don't let your life end full of potential that was never poured out. Don't go to the grave full. Go empty. De-empty. Die finished. Die fulfilled. Having released everything God placed inside of you. Because the greatest tragedy in life is not death. It's life without purpose. And the greatest gift you can give to the world is to become everything God had in mind when He created you.